What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Big Five Pod. I am, of course, your co-host, Kyle Morello. Next to me here, Jay Copestick. Cope, we got some wins to go over today. First time we've had majority wins. How we doing?
We're doing well. We're doing well. Unfortunately, one of the wins coming by way of St. Joe's was unfortunately at the expense of LaSalle losing a game, but hey, Big Five games happen that way. So yeah, it was good to see a couple teams get in the win column here as we are right in the thick of things in conference play. And believe it or not, we're only 2 months away from the tournament starting. So it's crazy how time flies and sneaks up on you. But we're right in the thick of things. It's crunch time now. So good to see some teams get a W in the win column for sure.
Absolutely. I believe the tournament officially starts, not including the first four games, but I think the tournament officially starts on March 16th. So we are officially less than 2 months away, which is crazy to think about, but I'm not mad at that, which also means we're about 6 weeks away from conference tournament play all around the board. Obviously starting with the lower major conferences, but man, this is what we live for. We are in the thick of things. And we've got a lot of basketball to go over. So let's not waste any time here. Let's get right into it. We're going to go in chronological order of the games that happened. So we will start with the Villanova Georgetown game, which was on Monday afternoon, early afternoon. And this was a scare. Georgetown, they led for a solid chunk of the second half. Nova was looking down in the dumps. They ended up pulling it out 77-73. Literally the first thing I have in my notes, really almost lost. They really almost lost to Georgetown, which would have ended their 27 loss streak in the Big East Conference, which is insane. But anyway, Caleb Daniels, 16 points on 3 of 9 from the field. Brandon Slater, 15 points on 5 of 9 from the field. Mark Armstrong, 14 on 5 of 7. And Cam Whitmore, 13 points on 5 of 13 from the field. So they had some scoring. They definitely did. So did Georgetown, and they shot 53.8% from the field, which we're going to get into in our analysis here because that's a little ridiculous for a team that's lost 27 straight Big East games, now 28, obviously. They were also out-rebounded by the Hoyas, 33-21. Listen, this was a little ugly. Like I said, they were down for a lot of that second half. In the last 2 minutes, Villanova ended up pulling out. They went down low. They went to Dixon. They went to Slater. They ended up pulling out the victory. And it's good. I'm really glad that they were able to close out a game to something they'd struggled doing up to this point. But it is a little pathetic that it was this close. So I want to get your opinion on this. What do you think about the Wildcats' performance?
So I think pathetic might be a little harsh. There's still, it's still a conference team. It's still a Big East team. It's tough to win a conference play, like I've said a billion times.
Home too, though. They were home in this one.
Yeah. And under Jay Wright, they had a very gaudy record at the Finn. They didn't lose often there. It's been a little bit different this year, but the Big East has been very good. And they've had to play some good teams there. So yeah, you can look at it and be like, wow, like they almost lost to Georgetown. But hey, if there's one thing we've learned in the Big Five this year, we'll take wins any way we can get them, even if you squeak out a close one. So good to see them at least get a win in Big East play, not continue on the skid that they were on. Offensively, especially in the first half, you talked about Brandon Slater having 15 points. He had a couple buckets early, posting up. He can straight line drive a little bit, but hey, if he can get a mismatch on the block and use his length a little bit to finish, I think that's definitely going to help them as well. And I think that's a position that you want to put him in, try getting him the ball inside the 3-point line, maybe on the block if you get a switch or something like that. So it was nice to see him get some baskets because if they're going to win games, they need their more experienced guys to step up and score a lot, because they play a lot of freshmen, and he's going to have to be one of those guys. So offensively, they went to Dixon the first half. Slater on the block too, gave him some good buckets. Mark Armstrong had another really strong game off the bench. Defensively, there's some things to clean up. He jumped for no reason pretty much and let Jordan Riley pull up and hit a shot in the first half. Speaking of that, hey, like this Georgetown team, another on like a historic losing streak, and it's really bad, but they still got some dudes that can score. Primo Spears had a great game. Jordan Riley as well. And it really wasn't anything like schematically. Like they just got them in positions where they could ISO on somebody. And they were just able to hit shots in the mid-range and get to the basket and make a couple threes. So defensively, there's definitely some stuff you got to clean up. You talk about the rebounding. When you have a big guy like Kadus Wahab inside, it's kind of tough because we know this Villanova team's at a size advantage. But the thing that really struck me the most here, we talked about how the last couple games they've had trouble getting stops late in games and ultimately closing out games. 2 big stops in the last minute and a half. Eric Dixon blocked Primo Spears on a possession where probably would have been a shot clock violation anyway. And then to seal the game, Brandon Slater picks Primo Spears' pocket, leads to a Cam Whitmore dunk, and they're able to close the game out. So that's the most important thing to me for this game. Yeah, you can talk about how bad Georgetown is, but we'll take wins any way we can get them. And especially, they were able to close out a game. They were able to get some stops when they really needed it and ultimately seal this game. From the free throw line, they were only 23 of 31, 74%. Very good for a lot of teams. But this Nova team, they're actually on track to break their NCAA best shooting percentage from the free throw line last year. They're on track to break that this year. Against better teams, that's probably not going to win them games, 74%. Like I said, a lot of teams will take that. But an uncharacteristic game from the free throw line for them because we know they're so good at doing that. But, regardless, we'll take a win. And they were able to get some big stops to ultimately close this game out.
Yeah, I mean, listen, the stops at the end and the way they were able to pull this one out was really good, but it was a little concerning before that. But I am very glad that they pulled it out, especially having lost the few of the games in a row that they did. And now we look to move on from that, and we'll get into their game coming up here soon. All right, moving on to the inner Big Five matchup, the game of the week, as you will. In the Big Five, St. Joe's beating LaSalle at Tom Goal Arena, 71-59. This is a very interesting one. I know you were in attendance. You can definitely offer me your perspective after I'm done my soliloquy here. But Cam Brown, great game, 20 points on 6 of 12 from the field. Eric Reynolds also with another 19 on 7 of 11. Lynn Greer, we've said his name a couple times the last few episodes. 12 points on 5 of 9. He's starting to turn around a little bit, which we love to see. As for LaSalle, there was one really great performer, and that was Fousseyni Drame, 24 points and 13 rebounds on 6 of 11 from the field. We hadn't really talked about the Drame twins in a while, like we had mentioned before. So good to call his name, but nobody else was in double figures, which is a little concerning. What's also concerning for LaSalle is that they only shot 29.5% from the field, while allowing St. Joe's to shoot 51% from the field. The Hawks also shot 50% from 3, which is LaSalle only shot 22. So that disparity is very, very concerning for the Explorers, but very good for the Hawks. The one thing we've always talked about with the St. Joe's team, though, 22 turnovers. I know they won by 12 points, but it took like a historically bad shooting performance from LaSalle for that to happen. If LaSalle, even shoots like 38% from the field, this might be a completely different game. And LaSalle in their own right only had 10, which isn't like nothing, but it's not a lot. They definitely had far worse performances turning the ball over. And St. Joe's out rebounded LaSalle 42-32. Honestly, for the turnovers, the entire Big Five really didn't have a bad turnover week, which is the first time I think we've ever said that in our 19 episodes, except for St. Joe's, of course. But like I said, you were in the building for this. Definitely, I'm sure you'll have a lot to say about the shooting disparity and whatnot, but I want to get your thoughts on what you saw from this one.
So ultimately, I think this game was kind of decided in like the first 5 minutes. Didn't really look like LaSalle was ready. I kept saying to myself, like, I don't think they've come out of the locker room and started playing yet. I mean, in the blink of an eye, 5 minutes into the game, it's 12-0 before LaSalle even gets a bucket. Guys were getting easy shots. The size was kind of a factor in this game with Ducouré only playing 9 minutes. Rokas Josias only played 14 or 15. And not having that size in the court, especially if Ejike Obina is going to play and Klotchik's out there, even though he fouled out, rebounding I thought could be a problem here. But it was just really like that first 5 minutes that set the tone. St. Joe's was getting easy shots. They were hitting threes. They were moving the ball well. And LaSalle couldn't get anything going on offense. Defensively, I thought St. Joe's had a very good game guarding the ball, not allowing Khalil Brantley and Jameer Brickus to get by him a lot and to get easy looks to the basket. And because of that, Khalil Brantley 2 of 16, Brickus 2 of 7, and they've really brought him home the last couple of games. It looks like Dunphy is kind of letting them shoulder the load, which I think is the good thing, and then they can kind of kick to guys for threes, get some other guys looks. But in a game like this, they just didn't shoot the ball well. You said Fousseyni Drame had a great game, and he did. And LaSalle battled. They really played hard, but that first 5 minutes they were always climbing and trying to dig out of that hole the whole game. And they got this lead down to 9 or 7 at one point. And then one of the wilder sequences I've seen in a game this year, Busini Drame blocks a shot, and Morgill throws a lollipop pass up to Brantley, I believe, gets stolen. Cam Brown has an easy layup. He fumbles the pass. Khalil Brantley gets the ball. He tries to throw it to Jameer Brickus, who's open but isn't looking for the ball, and it goes out of bounds. And then to me, like that was the game right there. Kind of ended their comeback bid. But it was ultimately that first 5 minutes that dug them in. And then for St. Joe's, I mean, they were just hitting shots. They're playing with a lot of confidence, and that's what happens when a team is able to come out and dominate the first 5 minutes and already get themselves a double-digit lead. They play with a lot of confidence, and every time LaSalle tried to come back, St. Joe's had an answer for him. Eric Reynolds hit an NBA three to stop another one of their comeback bids. In the second half, LaSalle was clawing back here to try and get in it, but ultimately they just didn't make enough shots. You know, and you even talk about the turnovers that St. Joe's had with 22-10. You would think that LaSalle would win a game like that. Sometimes games like this just happen. Shots don't go through the net. LaSalle missed a lot of gimmies inside, missed a couple free throws on one-on-ones where they could have got 2 points out of it, end up with none. So a lot of self-inflicted wounds with LaSalle, not hitting shots. The first 5 minutes were bad, but credit to St. Joe's. They had an answer for every time LaSalle tried to come back in this game, and they just shot the ball well. You talk about Lynn Greer, 12 points, 8 boards, 6 assists, flirted with a triple-double. However, he's been turnover prone this year. He had 7 turnovers in this game. But guy I want to talk about, Cameron Brown, the year he's having, he's been terrific. 4 threes in this game. How about him? 45% from three-point range on the season. He's having a terrific year for the Hawks. So good. It's definitely bodes well for St. Joe's. They got 2 in a row here. I know one's against Loyola, but hey, you win a Big 5 matchup here. Good for them as they get almost a full week off. They're going to play UMass at home on Saturday. But overall, one team made shots, one didn't. Even with all the turnovers for St. Joe's, the comeback bid at the end there for LaSalle. One team made shots, the other didn't. That's what the game was here. Not really too hard. You know, like I said, I'll keep harping on the first 5 minutes because that's not how we've seen LaSalle play, being feisty and competitive. Was definitely not them that first 5 minutes, but they kept trying to claw out of that hole, and ultimately St. Joe's just made enough shots. And in basketball, hey, how do you win? Got to outscore your opponent. That's what they did here.
Yeah, I mean, and the shooting disparity, like I mentioned, was just brutal. I mean, you're not going to win a game when you only shoot in the 20s for the game, even if the other team has 22 turnovers. But on the flip side of that, you're letting a team who's only shooting less than 30% back in the game when you turn the ball over 22 times. Even if you turn the ball over 15 times, it's still ridiculous. But over 20 is just asinine. They need to clean that up. They definitely need to clean that up. And I think they can. And like you said, they're playing UMass, and we'll go over that game a little bit here too. And I do think LaSalle can bounce back from this. This is one of those games, as we mentioned before, run the tape, get rid of it. Listen, shots go in, you probably win the game. They did not go in, so we'll move on. And so will we. Okay. Penn disappointing us right now. Quakers are very much we got some question marks, so we're gonna get into them. Princeton beating Penn this weekend on Saturday, or I'm sorry, this week on Monday. 72-60. Getting a little ahead of myself. We're going to get to the Penn game on Saturday. Jordan Dingle, 21 points and 6 rebounds, only on 6 of 22 from the field, though, so not very efficient. Nick Spinoso, 12 and 6 on 4 of 9 from the field. Clark Slackert had a rough game, 7 points on 1 of 10 from the field. Penn as a whole, 0 of 12 from 3. Not going to work. Not going to work. They were also out-rebounded 44-36. Now, they did only have 8 turnovers, which, like I said, most of the Big 5 did not do awful in the turnover department, which is the first time I think we've been able to say that in the 2 months that we've had this podcast. So love that for them, but they could not find a way to put the ball in the basket. They only shot 33% from the field for the game. So I know Princeton's a good team. Princeton's always been one of the better teams in the Ivy. They'll always be up there. It's like them, it's Yale, which we'll get into. And Penn's been pretty good too, but this is concerning because they have the talent. As we've talked about many times, they've gone into the year with the talent to be the best in the Ivy League this year, and they have not proven that so far. They got blown out by Cornell. They lost to Dartmouth when they shouldn't have. They lost to Princeton now. What's going on? What do you see with this team that's, raising all these red flags right now?
So they just got to make shots. The bottom line is their two best players the last two games haven't been great. And yeah, Dingle had 20 points, but he had 21 points. He needed 22 shots to get there. Their best two players are having rough shooting performances when they need it the most. Like you said, Princeton, one of the best teams in the Ivy League. And to me, this game almost really wasn't about Penn as much as it was Princeton. I was supremely impressed with Mitch Henderson and this Princeton team. They made Jordan Dingle and Slackert work for everything. Matalako and Ryan Langborg defended very, very well, slid with the guards on the perimeter, even off of screens and off of curls that Slackert likes to score on, and then initiate contact from behind him if you try and block over the top of him. They forced tough looks every single night. They made it hard for them to catch the ball. And because of that, that's why Penn only scored 60 points and Slackert was 1 of 10. And you talk about the 3-point percentage. First time since 2009, Penn has not made a 3-pointer in a game. So quite literally a historically bad shooting night from them from the perimeter. They had a couple looks that just didn't go down, but they played hard. You can't fault effort here. I'm not going to say that they didn't play hard or that they weren't trying and they gave up. I'm not going to say that a single bit because I thought they fought all night to try and claw the way back in. But I was just extremely impressed with Princeton, with the exception of the turnovers that Princeton believe had 11. Penn, you talk about the only 8 that they had. That was the only department that Princeton lost in as far as shooting percentage and rebounds go. So they crashed the glass on offense, made life very hard for Jordan Dingle and Clark Slackert. Tough on the catch, tough off of screens, fighting through screens. They just made life tough for two of the best scorers in the Ivy League and in the nation. So I was supremely impressed with Princeton. And then Tosan Awoma, I mean, he showed why he was the reigning Ivy League Player of the Year. He was terrific, 26 points, 7 boards, 3 assists. It's just tough for these Penn big guys that aren't used to playing defense in the perimeter that much. Michael Moshkovitz probably being the exception because he switches pretty well in the perimeter, but he just doesn't have the sheer size to stick with Tosan. And because of that, he took Spinoso and Max Lurka-Lloyd, who again aren't really used to playing out there that much and are more used to playing around the rim, was able to take them off the dribble, operated his own speed. He's got a terrific handle for a big forward like that. I mean, he plays like a big wing. Now with the size they have, they need him to be a 4 and a 5. But I mean, he's essentially almost like a big 3, with the exception of maybe the 3-point percentage isn't there. I mean, he's a terrific offensive player, great handle for a big guy, can get in the paint, always plays under control. Nobody sped him up, made him take bad shots. Just a terrific game for him. And that guy's a handful. And if he plays like that, Princeton could easily be playing in March. So I was definitely more impressed with Princeton. I'm not going to say that Penn played terribly. They didn't try because they did. They fought like hell, but supremely impressed with this Princeton team. And as far as I'm concerned, I got to see this game in person, but even with the Cornell game, Penn was competitive. They lost it in the second half and then ultimately got blown out because Cornell was making a lot of shots and they weren't. But this was a damn good performance. And I would even go as far to say this was the best team that I've seen Penn play. Not taking anything away from Cornell because they're right up there as well, if not better. But I was supremely impressed. This is a competitive game in the first half, and then Princeton pulled away. I thought they played a terrific all-around complete 40 minutes of basketball, and that's why they got the win here.
Yeah, I mean, they are, as we mentioned, they've been among the class of the Ivy for as far as I can remember. I mean, like you mentioned last episode, there's an offensive system named after them, the Princeton offense. Like they are a perennial contender in the Ivy League. And not that Penn's bad, but this was a struggle for them. This was an absolute struggle for them. And they need to figure out how to turn around. Yeah, they probably won't go over 12 from 3 again. Like you said, it hadn't been done since 2009. So it's been, well over a decade since that happened. I can't see it happening again, especially with the talent that they have in the offensive end. But they just need to figure it out. And I don't know exactly what that is right now that they need to do to figure it out other than putting the ball in the basket. But once once the shots start falling, things will get better for them. So hopefully that does happen. We do have a win though to go over. That doesn't involve another team in the Big Five losing. Temple beating ECU for the second time this year, this time with the Leacorp Center, 73-58. And Cope, I know you're going to love this because this was one of those classic Temple grinded out victories. Really. Damian Dunn, 22 points on 3 of 8 from the field. Caleb Battle, 27 on 7 of 14 from the field. But as a team, they only shot 40%. It's not the worst in the world. Definitely be better. They only also shot 21.7% from 3, though. So definitely something that they need to clean up a little bit. Sorry, I had something in my eye. They were out rebounded 45-34 as well. And here's the key, though. As we mentioned, Big Five teams did not turn the ball over that much this week. Temple only had 8 turnovers on Wednesday night. Not bad, considering what they've done in the turnover department, and not in a good way. I'll take that. They also forced 17 ECU turnovers. So to be on the positive side of the turnover battle for once is definitely something that, maybe we should try more often. It's a pretty good thing. However, this is a good game. This is just an all-around good game. It was a grinded out victory, and definitely one they needed. I know that they had a couple of tough losses in AAC play. This is a good victory. I know it's a team now that beat twice, so they swept ECU this season. But what do you take away from this one?
So this was a game that I kind of felt like embodied their season a little bit. We still don't really know what we're getting with Temple. It can be like the volatility of their performances is up and down, up and down. They're losing at the half. They're getting out rebounded 29-14 at halftime. ECU with 13 second chance points in the first half, and Temple was 8 of 27 in the first half. Now in the second half, they outscored ECU 45-25. ECU started to go cold from 3, cold from the field, and Temple was ultimately able to pounce on them, out rebounded them in the second half, which was nice to see. And Damian Dunn, 22 points. Now he shot 16 free throws. He made 16 of 18. This guy, find me someone that's better at getting the line in D1, because I swear this guy will put up a bunch of points. He made 3 shots.
Maybe Jordan Dingle. That might be the only person I can think of right now.
Yeah. So it's really good to see Damian Dunn back on track. I don't think this was a great game from Temple. I think it was a great second half. It was a poor first half, to be quite honest with you, because this is a team that they should have, especially at home, routed end to end, especially without their leading scorer as well. ECU's leading scorer out for this game too. So this is a game that they should have routed them. Against a team like ECU, first-year head coach, talent-wise, it's just not there. You'll take a win, obviously. You need to win in this game. This is not going to work against other teams. They're going to be playing somebody very good on Sunday who we'll talk about. You cannot play like this in the first half and then just expect to blow them out in the second half. So, again, they need to play a complete 40 minutes. They need to play a complete game. But they bounce back after the first half. They bounce back to play a good second half after a bad first half. And ultimately, they bounce back after losing the heartbreaker on a Kendrick Davis buzzer beater the game before. So it was a good second half from them. Very encouraging that Damian Dunn is playing like this. His last 5 games, he's averaging 18 points a game, shooting almost 50% from the field. They're going to need that. He looks like he did when the season opened up, and he had 38 points in the Vanderbilt game, which is good because even though he comes off the bench, they obviously need that scoring from him and Caleb Battle. So great game from him, getting in the line, making a lot of shots. Didn't turn the ball over, out-rebounded ECU in the second half. That's how they got the win here. But pretty poor first half, to be honest with you. I think they'll all admit that. They got to definitely rebound better. But hey, a win's a win. They got a sweep of the Pirates. They're 5-2 in AAC play. Could be a lot worse. So nice to see them get a win at home, bounce back after the heartbreaker to Memphis. But got to rebound better. Got to play complete 40 minutes. Because if you play like they did in the first half, it's not going to fly, and you're not going to win many games that way, because they get a pretty tough schedule coming up.
Listen, we'll take the win, like you said. It's been tough sledding. The Kendrick Davis buzzer beater was unfortunate. They played well in that game. They didn't shoot well in that game, but neither did Memphis, so it's okay. They battled back in the victory against Tulsa. I think I first for second, but it's fine. They had a tough loss against Tulane. So this was a good win for them. This is one they needed. Get it in your back pocket, move on. As we are right now, we're going to move on to the upcoming games. First, on Friday, we have a show at Madison Square Garden. And there's like an 8% chance that I'm attending this game if ticket prices come down just a smidge. That's okay. It's the Garden. It's expensive. I know how that is. I'm a Knicks fan. So anyway, Villanova taking on St. John's. Listen, we've talked about this Johnny's team before because they've played these two teams. They played at the Finn. Villanova won 78-63. And you had a perfect analysis of this game going to that one. And I don't really think your analysis is going to change, but we're going to go over these stats quickly anyway, and I'll let you get to it. 61st in KenPom is this Red Storm team. They are second in average length of possession and tempo, something that was a key point in your analysis last time. The 55th in offensive rebound percentage. They're second in block percentage. They're coming off a huge win over UConn, who looks to be reeling right now, just if you want to have a national spotlight on this show real quick. And Joel Soriano, 16.5 points per game, 12 rebounds per game, 1.5 blocks per game. He's their stud. He's their go-to guy. This is going to be tough for Villanova. The St. John's team is talented. They're coming off. They had lost 5 straight in Big East play. Now they have 2 straight wins, including the win over Villanova. And Villanova doesn't have someone like Adama Sanogo. I know Cam Whitmore is pretty good, and they have some other good pieces, but they don't have anyone like Adama Sanogo. It's different though. Villanova and the Connecticut style. So how do you see this one playing out? Will it be like last time where, you saw St. John's open up quick and they were running up and down the floor, and then kind of Villanova adjusted and stopped them? Or will they make it a track meet, and will this be an uncomfortable game for the Wildcats?
So this all depends on the turnovers. St. John's was able to create chaos and make this game a track meet because Villanova was turning it over in the first half of their last meeting. And then when they cut down the turnovers, maybe declined on taking some shots early in the shot clock, worked the ball around, forced the defense to make some mistakes and get some easier ones. That's how they were able to pull away, play defense in the half court. We know this St. John's team, the shot selection is very questionable at times, and they'll take very low quality shots, sometimes very early in the clock. So that's what you got to force them to do. You got to slow this game down as much as possible. And you do that by cutting down on the turnovers. Now, this team, they were reeling a little bit. They started off 11-1, 12-1, and then they actually started to play some Big East competition. They played Iowa State. They lost to them, and they started to reel a little bit in conference play, but they got a home win over Butler. You talk about the big win over UConn that they just had. They might have a little bit of confidence going in this game for sure. Big game at the Guard. I know the Johnnies love playing there, but ultimately it's the turnovers that are going to decide this game. Because if you're going to turn the ball over and you're going to let St. John's and their athleticism and their speed get out in transition, they're going to get easy buckets. But you got to cut down on the turnovers, slow this game down, and do what you can to contain Joel Soriano. I remember watching him at Fordham. He's a freshman or sophomore, and he is not nearly in the shape that he was now. He was a little big. They couldn't play him a ton of minutes because I don't think he was in that great of shape. And to see the evolution of him now be a double-double machine. He's got 16, which leads D1, shooting over 62% from the field, averaging almost 17 points and 12 rebounds. I mean, this guy is definitely a handful, one of the best players in the Big East. So got to try and limit St. John's to one shot on offense, make life tough for him, make him catch the ball away from the basket. However, saying that, he's actually become a very good mid-range shooter. So he's now a guy that you have to respect and you have to get up in his face. However, you probably want him putting the ball on the floor, trying to drive to the basket and create, not exactly a strong suit. So got to make him catch the ball out, far out, not just allow him to get easy baskets and easy catches around the rim. And then with these guards, I got to give Mike Anderson a little bit of credit. He shook up a starting lineup. He puts Andre Curbelo on the bench. In comes in Dylan Adewusu, and then the freshman AJ Storr, who had 15 points in the last game against Nova, 3 of 5 from 3-point range. Partly that's due because Montez Mathis, Mike Anderson today has a toe injury, then he's going to be out an extended period of time. So some of that's out of necessity, but playing the young guy over Andre Curbelo, I guess it's worked out for them because they've won 2 straight games. But turnovers is what's going to decide this game. If you're going to let St. John's get out and run in transition, they're going to win, and they're going to play a good first, I'd say 15 to 16 minutes like they did in the first half against Nova, and they could win this game. But you cut down on the turnovers, you slow this game down, make Joel Soriano catch the ball far away from the basket. However, you have to respect his mid-range jump shot. You can't give him space, make him put the ball on the floor, try and create some turnovers for yourself. I think that's how they win this game. I think it'll be close for sure. Obviously, it's always hard to win on the road, but something about this Nova team the last couple of years, they've liked playing at Madison Square Garden, whether it's been against the Johnnies. I was there for the Jimmy V Classic last year. They beat Syracuse, the Big East tournament. They've been good there last few years. And ultimately, since the new Big East, they've been very good there. So I think it'll be close. I'm a little hesitant to trust this Villanova team, but with Montez Mathis out, I think this Johnny's team, even with a little bit of confidence, I'm going to take Nova in a close game here. I'm uncomfortable doing that because they just barely beat Georgetown. But the blueprint is out there how to beat the St. John's team. I think they have some Nova's veteran players will be able to follow that, but you cut down on the turnovers. This should be an easy win for them. So make Joel Soriano catch it far away from the basket. Don't make any mistakes offensively, turn the ball over. Make sure that you deal with the press well. Don't have St. John's muck it up and create a bunch of chaos. And I think they can win this game. I do think that, St. John's maybe a little bit of a letdown spot here after a big win. So I'll take Nova in a close game, crossing my fingers that they win, because not exactly like great to back them here. Kind of on it's a neutral site game. I know it's technically a Johnny's home game, but I'll take Villanova here in a close one. The blueprint's out on the Johnnies now to beat them.
Yeah, I mean, you are right about that. I think the Johnnies are also capable of making adjustments from last time, and I actually think I'm going to side with the Johnnies this time. I just think I'm not high on Nova right now. I can't be, and I know you struggle with that too a little bit in your pick, and I don't know. I can't get behind them right now. They did almost lose to Georgetown. I don't know, like I've been kind of shitting on Georgetown and all that, but the truth of the matter is that they're not a great team, and they're not even a good team. I don't even think they're a mids team. They're just a bad team in, a really good conference, obviously. And I don't think Villanova's a good team right now. I think they're in that mids category. And I think St. John's might be ever so slightly above them right now. At least they've proven it. They bounced back. They've won 2 straight, which is good for them. And I know they had a rough stretch before that. But, you mentioned there was a change putting Andre Cabello on the bench. I know he hasn't had the best season, so maybe him coming off the bench will be a little bit more of a spark and a little more experience with the second unit. Also mixing him with the first unit as well in their rotations. But I don't know. I can't back Villanova in this game. So I'm going to back the Johnnies. I think it'll be an exciting one. I definitely think it'll be a close one, but give me the Johnnies. I think they're gonna pull this one out here. And unfortunately, I think Nova's gonna continue their free fall a little bit, even though they won on Monday, but it wasn't pretty. Anyway, we'll move on. Saturday, there are 3 games in Big 5 play. The first one at 1:00 at Hagan Arena. UMass is coming to town to take on the Hawks. The Minutemen are 162nd in KenPom, 27th in offensive rebound percentage. They are 319th in effective rebound percentage. Effective field goal percentage. I wrote down the same thing twice. And they are 275th in turnover percentage on offense, which means they do be turning the ball over quite often, which means that this game is going to be a turnover fest because so do the Hawks. My goodness. We've seen this UMass team before. This is the team that LaSalle just barely lost to. Did they win that game?
Yeah, LaSalle beat them.
Am I tripping? Yeah, LaSalle won by 1 point. I don't know why I was tripping for a second. Regardless, it was a close game against that LaSalle team. This is the St. Joe's team that LaSalle fell to just the other day. So I think this will be a close game, especially being at home for the Hawks. They've played better there. As we know, they played Villanova pretty well there, who's a much more talented team. They beat Loyola there. They beat LaSalle there. So they play a lot better at Hagan Arena. Who do I think wins this one? I think I'm going to go with UMass just because I think they're the better team. I think St. John's will be able to replicate their 50% but 22 turnover performance. I think if one of those things has to give, it will be their shooting. They don't really take care of the ball very well. I know UMass doesn't either. So I'm expecting a sloppy one, but I'm expecting a close UMass victory, maybe by like 3 or 4 points. What do you think?
So this game is going to hinge on one thing for me, and that's the injury to Noah Fernandez with UMass. He's had a foot injury that's bothered him this year. He missed a couple of games in the non-conference slate, and he's missed the last 2 games for UMass. They're just a better team when he's on the court. He leads them with over 13 points a game, a little over 4 assists a game, leads the team in both categories. And UMass is just a better team when he's on the court. Shocking. When you have your best passer and your best scorer, you are a better team. Crazy, I know.
Funny how that works. Yeah.
That's how I see this game going. Is it really depends on this injury. I think St. Joe's can actually squeak out a win here. We just seen this UMass team without Noah Fernandez get blown out at the Siegel Center against VCU, and then they lost badly against George Washington at Foggy Bottom. So on the road, hasn't been great. They're just a better team with Noah Fernandez in the lineup. Without him, hard to create shots when you don't have your best passer. hard when you're missing your best score as well. And this St. Joe's team's playing a little bit of confidence. And shout out to the guys at Big 5+1. Saw a tweet today that St. Joe's has the second easiest conference remaining strength of schedule.
Did see that.
That will help. Hey, maybe there's a little bit of hope, and we can at least, look to the future and I guess see a little bit of hope, I guess, for this team. But if Noah Fernandes plays, I will take UMass. If he doesn't, I will take St. Joe's. I just think the injury is big enough that it can swing things both ways, with his scoring and his creation. And ultimately, UMass, they're just a world's better team when he's on the court. And you also talk about how bad this UMass team has been on the road, but still, if he plays in this game, I'll take UMass. If he doesn't, I'll take St. Joe's. And if he ends up not playing in this game and St. Joe's wins, how about 3 in a row for the Hawks? And in conference play, you will take that every single day of the week. So for me, the game hinges on the injury to Noah Fernandes. He's the catalyst for this team, scoring, getting guys open shots as well, and distributing. So game hinges on that injury. My pick literally depends on if he's in or out. He's missed the last 2 games. I guess it doesn't sound promising. Sounds like he's still questionable going into Saturday, but that's where I stand on this game. If he plays, I'm on UMass. If he doesn't, I will definitely take the Hawks.
You see, I did not know that information when I made my pick, so I will be changing my pick now that I have new information. I will be doing the same exact thing you do. If Noah Fernandes plays, I'm on UMass. If he doesn't play, I'll be on the Hawks, because that is a very, very important piece for the Minutemen there. So we will see. We will see if he is in the lineup. I hope he is, not just because I just think it'll be a better game, and I don't want to see anybody hurt. I want to see all the best players there, so there's no excuses. So I hope St. Joe's wins this game regardless, but if Noah Fernandes does play, I'm going to have to back the Minutemen. Just how it's going to have to be. Okay, moving on. Sticking with A10 play here. LaSalle traveling to St. Louis to take on the Billikens. That is Saturday at 2:30. The St. Louis team we've seen before. Actually, these two teams have played before, and LaSalle squeaked that one out at Tom Gola. So that was a great win for them. But it'll be a much different story traveling on the road to St. Louis. St. Louis is 80th in KenPom. They're 50th in adjusted offense, 59th in turnover percentage. So they'd like to tear the ball a little bit. They're on a streak right now. They've won 4 in a row. And as we mentioned last time when these two teams played, they have one of the best names in college basketball, Gibson Jimerson. He's averaging almost 13 points a game for them. Another important piece for them is Francis Okoro, 8.3 rebounds per game, 1.6 blocks per game. So this team, listen, they score. They can put the ball in the hoop. LaSalle doesn't always do the best job at defending that. So I think this one will be interesting. I hate to be the contrarian and always pick against the Big 5 teams, at least in this episode so far. But I think, coming off the bad loss to St. Joe's at home, they both play in the same city, but at home, and they're on their court. Now they're going to be traveling to St. Louis. They barely beat this St. Louis team at home, which was a good win. I'm not discounting that whatsoever, but it's going to be tough for them. So I do think St. Louis is going to win this one. I'd say between 5 and 7 points. I think it'll be decently close, but a comfortable enough victory for the Billikens. How do you see this one playing out?
So to correct you, they actually haven't played this year. They played St. Joe's at St. Joe's. St. Joe's barely lost to them. That might be what you're getting them confused with. But regardless, I'm going to take St. Louis in this game.
That might be what
definitely take SLU.
That's my fault.
Look, SLU's got a great point guard, Yuri Collins. He can take the ball away. He can play tough defense on Khalil Brantley and Jameer Brickus. And we talked about this guy being the lead assist guy in college basketball. I think he had 16 assists when they played St. Joe's when they went to Hagan Arena. He's terrific. Guy just knows how to pass. He throws guys open. Just has a knack for picking up assists and knowing where guys are going to be. And additionally, averages over a steal a game, will take the ball away as well. So I'll take SLU here. Yeah, and the fact that Gibson Jimerson leads him in scoring, can shoot the ball really well. And then Francis Okoro inside, a long, bouncy guy who can block some shots, I think will give them trouble inside as well. So with the point guard play and then the big guy inside with their addition to stretch the floor, I'll take SLU here. Injury note, I'll bring up another one. Fred Thatch, one of the guys who comes off the bench for them, provides some defense, kind of a glue guy for this team. He did tear his ACL a couple games ago. He's going to miss the rest of the season, but that doesn't really swing my analysis at all. I'm still going to take SLU here, protecting their home court. It's just weird to me how in the A10, like LaSalle's got to travel all the way to St. Louis. It's just weird to me
That's
how that works.
bizarre.
Got to go all the way to the Midwest. Yeah, it's weird. So I'll take SLU to win this game. Tough place to play for sure. So I'll take SLU here. Not a great shooting game from LaSalle last game, obviously. Not going to be that much easier having to play against this team. So I'll take SLU here to protect their home court. They're going up against one of the best point guards and the best distributor in America. Really good shooter in Gibson Jimerson. And I think, again, the size inside with Francis Okoro will give this team some trouble, especially if Ducore is not going to play that much and Josius isn't going to play that much. I'll take SLU here. I think the size, and the point guard play are ultimately going to get the Billikens this victory. So I'll take SLU here to get on a bit of a roll. They just won at Loyola this week, and I think they'll make it back-to-back wins.
I definitely agree with you. Definitely apologies for the misinformation there. We don't want that ever, but that was my fault. I got confused with St. Joe's and LaSalle. Obviously, two big five teams that have played St. Louis, but we'll move on from that. But yes, I do think St. Louis is going to win this one. Decently handily, not insanely handily, but decently handily. All right, moving on. Saturday evening, we have another Ivy League matchup, and we talked about how Princeton's usually at the top of the Ivy League. Well, this team is almost always at the top of the Ivy League, and that would be the Yale Bulldogs. Penn is traveling to Yale, so they're going up to New Haven, Connecticut for this one Saturday at 6:00. Yale, they're a pretty decent team this year too. 97th in KenPom. They are 7th in allowing offensive rebounds, so they don't really be allowing a whole ton of offensive rebounds. They are 49th in 2-point percentage on offense. However, they're only 259th in field goal percentage, effective field goal percentage. So not great there. And they're also 42nd in defensive field goal percentage. So listen, this is one of those teams that's among the class of the Ivy League. You've got Yale, you've got Princeton, you've got Cornell, and Penn is supposed to be that fourth team, though they have not been playing like it. Do you think this is one of those games where they can finally step up on the road, go to New Haven after a not great stretch? They lost to Dartmouth, they lost to Princeton, and prove that they belong among the class of the Ivy League?
So again, I feel like I'm the guy who always takes the Big Five teams, but I do think they're due for a little bit of positive shooting regression here. And in addition to that, it's tough to say because they've lost their last 4 games going up to Yale, and they're playing against a very, very good defense. So although it's uncomfortable, I'm going to take Penn to win this game. I think Slacker, Dingle are due for a game here to be filling it up. And they have to. They have to. Right now, they're 2-3. There's a bunch of teams, including Yale, that are 2-3 in the conference that are all tied. But currently, Penn's only above Columbia in record. Like, they need to start putting some wins together if they want to be in the Final Four of the Ivy League and then play for a spot in the NCAA tournament. So I think this is a game where they'll be playing desperate. They need this one. They'll be the hungrier team. This is a place that they haven't won in their last 4 tries. It's a very good defense having to go on the road. It's an uncomfortable pick, but I will take Penn here. I think they're due for some positive shooting numbers. They're due to get some guys back on track. I think Clark Slacker definitely shoots better than the 1 for 10 that he showed on Monday. In addition, I think Jordan Dingle pours in a big game here and a lot more efficient game at that. And I think they will make a 3. Maybe hot take, but I think they will make a 3-pointer. And I think they might even make multiple 3-pointers in this game. So,
could you imagine?
No, crazy. But
Could you imagine?
I mean, literally, we have not seen Penn, in almost 15 years not make a 3, go a game without making a 3. I think they're due for some positive shooting numbers here. Even though it's against a good defense, it's a place where historically they haven't played well. They really, really need this one. They really, really need this one. I still think they're as talented as anybody in this conference. It's a really, really wide open conference. It's been very good this year, a lot of parity. Obviously, Cornell's at the top. Princeton's very good. But like I said, they're tied with quite a few teams here at 2-3 in the standings. So I think they need this one. They'll be playing desperate. They'll have a good shooting game from guys who the last 2 games have struggled. And I think they'll squeak out a win here. However, this Penn defense, you brought up all those numbers. How about 61.3 points per game allowed? That's 22nd best in the country in scoring defense. So it'll be a tough game for them. But I think Jordan Dingle and Clark Slacker get back on track. The numbers are telling me no, but I just think this team's desperate. They really, really need a win. They're far more talented, and they're way better than they've shown the last 2 games. And I think they'll squeak out a win here on the road in New Haven.
You know what? As much as I hate the matchup for the Quakers, I love the analysis that you gave, and I'm gonna have to agree with you. I'm gonna take the Quakers here. Listen, you can't get much worse than the last game shooting wise. Obviously, you mentioned they're over 12 from three. You know, God forbid they make a three this time. We'll see. Maybe multiple, like you said. We'll see. Um, you just their two best players went 7 of 32 from the field. Like, that's insane. That's insane.
And
You're
it
not
wasn't much better the last game either.
no, no, not at all. So I agree. I think they're due for some positive shooting regression, not just the two stars, but the entire team. And this is the place to do it. It's against a defense that's really good. I think they're going to want to step up to the challenge. And like you said, it's go time for them. They're toward the bottom of the Ivy League stands right now. If they want to play in March, they got to pick it up. And I know this is a tough team. This is one of those top teams in the Ivy League, but this is the game that they have to do it. And I think they will. So give me the Quakers in this one. Again, probably going to be a really close game. These games usually are, but give me the Quakers. So that is that. All right, now we move on to the final one of the weekend, Sunday at 3:00 down in Houston. And we talk about these Ken Palm rankings all the time, and they're very useful information. We'll get that out there as we know. This Houston team is number one in Ken Palm. They're also the number one team in the country. They're also the odds-on favorite to win the national championship right now at about, depending on where you're looking at odds-wise, plus 600, plus 700, along those lines. And nobody else is even in triple digits. Everyone's quadruple or more. So Houston's the clear favorite right now. And for good reason. Like I said, first in Ken Palm, they're eighth in offensive efficiency. They're second in defensive efficiency. They're fifth in offensive rebound percentage. They're 21st in turnover percentage. They're second in defensive effective field goal percentage. They're 15th in defensive turnover percentage. I can go on and on. There's definitely more. I just didn't want to absolutely load up my sheet because we're going to have to get into this, you know what I mean? But this Houston team, if there's a statistic, they're probably good at it. They're coached by Kelvin Sampson, who's an absolute veteran. This team has been to a Final Four 2 years ago. They're in the Elite Eight last year, just barely losing to Villanova in a game they probably shouldn't have lost if they didn't go like 0 for a million from three. Kind of giving me Houston Rockets vibes in 2018. This is going to be a really tough game for the Owls. Now, not impossible. They do have two stud scorers in Caleb Battle and Damian Dunn. They do have a pretty good defender in Jaleel White. They've got a pogo stick rebounder and defender inside and Nick Jourdain. I know they're missing Jamil Reynolds, and having him for this game would have been huge. This isn't a game this is one of those games. This is what I was actually telling my roommates who aren't really that much into basketball, but they go to Temple in their grad program, and they're asking me about this game coming up. They're like, well, I've heard Houston's really good. How's Temple going to do in this game? I was like, well, it's going to go one of two ways. They're either going to get scoring from their stars, and they're not going to turn the ball over a ton, and then they're going to shoot a good percentage from the field, and this game's going to be close, potentially win, probably not, but potentially win, or they're going to fall into their bad habit to turn the ball over. They're not going to shoot the rock well. They're not going to be passing well. They're going to play iso ball, and they're going to lose by 20 at least. Which one do you see playing out?
So unfortunately, I think the latter here. I look at the last two meetings down in Houston last year. They lost 84-46. Nick Jourdain had 4 fouls early in the second half, and then picked up a technical after he picked up his fourth, and then they had to play without him, who was kind of their only big at the time. And the time before that, 2021, lost 76-50. So they don't score a lot of points down there. Historically, it's not a place they've done that well since the AAC's been formed. And I just think that this Temple team that we don't know how they're going to play, I'm not going to bank on them playing well against the best team in the country who you bring up odds. I am holding a Houston plus 850 championship ticket, which still is very low, not exactly great odds, but that's because they're that good. Earlier in the year, I said I thought UConn was pound for pound the best team, or I just said at the time, I think for my money, UConn's the best team in the country. Ever since conference play happened, that has not been the case. This Houston team,
I put money on that UConn team. I had them at 16-1, and they're
yeah,
up to like in the twos now. So
yeah, and then you've this Houston team, one loss all year at home against Alabama, who's a top 5 team. They go on the road, they beat Virginia, who's ranked second. This is a day or fourth, something like that. It was a top 5 matchup. They went up to Charlottesville and they beat them. This is a team with few weaknesses, one of which maybe your 3-point shooting. You bring up a lot of numbers. There's only so many. This is a good team. You can point to all the numbers you want. Bottom line is they're number one for a reason. This Temple team, I've seen them with bad body language this year when things aren't going well for them. I've seen them. We just saw them get dominated on the glass by East Carolina. And unfortunately, I think that's the team that we're probably going to see, because this Houston team will pounce on you as soon as the ball is tipped. Last year, I went to go see them play at the Liacouras Center. Blink of an eye, it's like 17-6 after 6 minutes. This team is out for blood. It's like they're like sharks in the water when they, another blood reference. They're like sharks in the water when they smell blood. I mean, if they feel you playing timid, playing scared, they're going to pounce on you. They're going to blow you out. They're going to crash the glass. They're mean. They're physical. They're nasty. They're going to press you. They're going to get up in your face on offense. And I see this game playing out probably with Caleb Battle taking a lot of bad shots, shooting a low percentage because he's going to be hounded, and Houston's defense is that good. They're going to be in his face the whole time as soon as he brings it across the court. They're not going to give him any room to breathe. And if they have bad games from Damian Dunn and Caleb Battle here, they don't have a chance, and they're going to get smoked. And you bring in the fact that they don't have Jamil Reynolds. They don't have a ton of size now. This Houston team, they're athletic. They're going to make it. They're going to create havoc. And if this Temple team is going to play a bad game like we've seen them play, and they're not going to dive on the ball for 50-50 balls, well, Houston's going to do that. You're going to get dominated on the glass. Well, Houston's going to do that. They can beat you, and not beat you. They can dominate you in so many facets and just break your will and break this game wide open. And that's how I see this game playing. It's going to be tough to play down there now that they've been terrific the last couple of years. The Fertitta Center sold out almost every night. It's a very tough place to play now, one of the toughest in the conference. And because of that, I'm going to take Houston here to dominate them. Last year, how about this? Another stat for you. They made 13 baskets last year, and they had 19 turnovers. That's the kind of game that Houston can force you to play. Now, they've actually played them close at the Liacouras Center pretty recently. Last year was close. They beat them the 1 year where Ernest Flackby took a charge in the final seconds, which was a great win for them.
Yep.
But this Houston team, really hardly a weakness, maybe besides the 3-point percentage. But when they're hot, they're hot. Marcus Sasser had 7 threes in their last game. When they're on, which is most of the time, I mean, this team will absolutely dominate you and just rip you to shreds. So shocking. I'm going to take the number 1 team in the country at home here, but I do think that they'll dominate the Owls in a place where the last 2 meetings have not been pretty at all. And they've absolutely wrecked them both games and beat them badly. So I think this is a game where Temple doesn't shoot the ball well. They commit a lot of turnovers with the press. They only had 8 last game. I think they're due for that number to definitely come up. And if you're going to get out rebounded by East Carolina, this team is going to absolutely dominate you on the boards and fly on the offensive end and get second and third opportunities on you. So I'll take Houston at home by a pretty big margin here. I hate to do that to the Owls, but this is a place where the last 2 meetings have not been pretty. And guess what? This is the best team that they've probably had of those 2 last groups. One that made the Final Four. The Final Four team, maybe you can make an argument with Quentin Grimes being a first-round pick, but they got 3 experienced guards. They got plenty of big guys. They have probably a lottery pick in Jarris Walker on their team. I think this legitimately is the best Houston team that they've seen. And the last 2 teams blew them out. The last 2 teams made in the Elite 8 in the Final Four. This one has their sights set on a championship. I think Houston cruises here. And unfortunately, we see the bad Owls here, because you can't come out slow, or you won't be down 5 like they were against ECU at halftime. You'll be down 25 easy. So I'll definitely take Houston here in dominant fashion. Just not a place the Owls play well, and there's a reason why they're number 1. I'll just put it that way. There is a clear reason why this team is number 1 in the country, because they are as good as advertised. They have a terrific coach in Kelvin Sampson, a ton of experience, guards, glue guys, a lottery pick. Like I said, this team's got it all, man. And I think they will for sure make the Final Four. And right now, gun to my head, this is my champion.
Yeah, I mean, I don't blame you for that pick. Listen, like we come on the show and we talk basketball, and I'd say we're both pretty good basketball minds. I think you show more than me, especially with college, but I'd say we're both pretty good basketball minds, and we break down all these teams and talk about what they do well and what they don't do well, and how the Big 5 teams can potentially exploit that and and whatnot. But sometimes you just can't big brain things that shouldn't be big brain. This is not a big brain opportunity right here. Houston's the number 1 team in the country, like we've mentioned. Temple is very, very inconsistent. Yes, they have their good days, and they have days where their 2 stars go off, and they have days where they have energy and they play good on defense, and they win games that way. They also have games, like we mentioned, where they have bad body language, as you said, and They don't put the ball in the basket. They turn the ball over. They get guys ejected. They get technicals. It can be sloppy. And the inconsistency is just a problem. And it's been a problem all year. Honestly, it's been a problem for more than just this year. But that ugly head is going to show in this Houston game. And I agree with you. I think this is not going to be a fun one for Temple going down to Houston. It's probably going to be at least a 15-point loss, if not more. As you mentioned, it's been more than 20 the last two times they've gone down there on two teams that are maybe slightly inferior to this one. Both those teams, yes, the one made the Final Four, the one made the Elite Eight. None of them were the number one team in the country. This team's the number one team in the country. This team's been the number one team in the country, even though they haven't been ranked in the AP poll that entire time as number one, but they've been Ken Pop's number one for quite some time. There's no big brain in this. They're a better basketball team. They do everything better than Temple, and they're going to blow Temple out. And I'm sorry, I love my Temple Owls, but it's not going to be pretty. So give me Houston in an ugly one down in Texas. So that is that. And that is all the games that we have to go over. Do you have anything else you would like to add here before we sign off?
Well, I guess I can just say that the good thing for Nova is the Big East is kind of wide open this year. Yesterday, I watched the end of the Xavier DePaul game, which DePaul, another really big win for them. They were able to knock out number 8 Xavier, who entered the top 10. We talked about St. John's in this episode, who went up to Stores and then ended up beating UConn. Marquette, close, kind of close, I guess. They did beat Providence at home yesterday. Then, hey, how about Seton Hall? Shaheen Holloway's guys are starting to play well and turn a corner. It's not pretty offensively with the Pirates, but defensively under Shaheen Holloway, shockingly, they are a very tough and physical defense. KC Nadefo, game-winning putback yesterday. Even though he was great at St. Peter's, I mean, he hasn't skipped a beat playing in the Big East now. So the Pirates are starting to come alive. You know, it's almost like they're as John Rothstein would say, the Big East is cannibalizing itself. You have the bottom feeders, quote unquote. DePaul hasn't been good for the last number of years. Now Georgetown is kind of in its own bottom tier, but DePaul beat Villanova. They just knocked off Xavier. Seton Hall is now playing well. Seems like on any given night, anything can happen. That's what makes college basketball so great. But at least for Villanova, conference kind of looks wide open. UConn's on a skid now. Providence just lost. Marquette, they've lost some games. So, hey, damn good conference. Well, Marquette's only got the one loss to Xavier, but still, Xavier now lost their first game in conference. It's kind of looking wide open. You never know. I know the Nova hasn't played well, but you never know. They got a lot of tough games coming up, and maybe they can steal one on the road coming up soon.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I love me some Big East basketball. You know that. We all know that. And I know you do too, but another conference cannibalizing itself. How about the Big 12? That conference is insane. You had Kansas State beating Kansas the other night. Iowa State and Texas played a really good one. You know, all these teams are just so good. And West Virginia beating TCU on their home floor in West Virginia. Just an insane conference. Those two conferences.
They're going to have 8 or 9 teams in the tournament.
Yeah.
I mean, unequivocally, they are head, shoulders, and a torso above every other conference in America. They have a bunch of teams in the top 25. And you talk about K-State, man. How about them? What a year that they've had. I watched that game against Kansas, and what a great back and forth game, and what a great story Keontae Johnson's been. I really loved him as an NBA prospect of Florida. Unfortunately, he had, I believe it was a cardiac arrest injury that kept him off the sidelines for the 2020 season and then last year as well. But hey, now that he's healthy, he was at preseason SEC Player of the Year. The year that he got hurt was kind of projected to be a lottery pick by a lot of guys, and you're seeing just how good of a player he is and how good K-State's been. So they've been a great story. They were a pretty good program under Bruce Weber. He made an Elite Eight, but those Wildcats, I thought that they had already reached their peak. Kansas would beat them, being the number 2 team. It appears that those K-State Wildcats are for real. So good for Jerome Tang. What a turnaround. People, believe they were picked 10th in the Big 12. And now with the win, they were ranked 11, I believe, going into the game on Tuesday against Kansas. They
13th. They were 13th. But, I mean,
they will for sure be in the top
team.
10 this week now with that win.
Definitely.
So just a weird year in college basketball. I don't mean to go on here, but
no, listen.
We live in a world.
It's been a weird year.
Duke, Kentucky, and UNC. Now, I think UNC snuck back into the top 25, but we live in a world where those 3 programs are not ranked. Clemson's ranked. Missouri's ranked or was ranked. They probably will enter back into the rankings now they beat Arkansas.
Charleston and FAU were ranked.
What is going on? That's why this is the
No.
best sport. This is unequivocally the best sport.
I mean, listen, I do love me my baseball
K-State
here.
picked 10th.
This side particularly.
K-State picked 10th. Now they're going to be in the Big 12. Now they're going to be top 10 in the country. Like what a wild year. I look at bracketology sometimes and I'm just like befuddled with some of it. Like Georgia's going to be in this, might be in this year with first year under Mike White. Penn State might make the tournament. Like what a just an awesome wild season. This wild.
Rutgers has been up there too. I know they made the tournament last year, but
they made the last two tournaments.
It's still surprising to see them just have success in general. But
yeah, so much going on, so much chaos, so many teams come out of nowhere and being good. It's awesome. College basketball.
Love it. Hey, this is why March dominates. It's the best. It will always be the best. And I'm very excited to get to that. But that's all we got for this one. Thank you guys so much for tuning in as always. And if you want to hear some more, make sure you like and subscribe to our YouTube. Make sure you follow our social media at Big Five Pod. Make sure you listen to us on our audio only versions on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Listen, we got a lot of stuff coming your way, so definitely make sure you tune into that. College basketball is heating up, as we've just mentioned, so make sure you also tune into that, because those are some games you don't want to miss, especially this weekend. So with that being said, I almost said without further ado, we're not going to do that this time. With that being said, thank you guys so much again, and we will see you next time.